The Russian Grandmother's Wondertales, Chapter 9, Cat and Dog. The little boy was playing in the court with a peasant's dog that helped to guard the sheep. It was a clear, cold day, but the little boy was not cold, for he had on his warm quilted kaftan or blouse, his cap, which he called his Chpt, on his head, and on his feet were sandals made of the tough bark of the linden tree. He was not going to risk frozen toes another time. The sheepdog was old and rather cross, but he was always kind to the little boy. But when the house cat followed the cowherd woman out of the house, where she had gone to carry some milk, the dog bristled up and growled. The cat spat at him, and this was too much. He sprang at her, but Kitty was too quick for him. She flew across the court and scrambled nimbly up to the shed roof by one of the supporting poles. The dog was too old and heavy to follow her, and he sat on his haunches in the court below, bristling and snarling, the cat spitting back at him and evidently enjoying the fun. The cowherd woman and a peasant who was at work in the court were laughing heartily. The little boy's brother, who was cutting wood in the shed, came out to see what it was all about. The little boy was highly excited, and he ran to call his grandmother to come and see. But by the time the grandmother had risen slowly from her chair, for her rheumatism was bad that day, and had gone to the door, leaning on her stick, the fun was all over. The cat had gone around to another side of the shed and lay basking in the sun, out of the dog's sight. The peasant, the cowherd woman, and the little boy's brother had gone back to their work. Only the dog remained, looking up at the deserted roof and growling at nothing. The little boy went with his grandmother into the house. "Grandmama," he asked, "why does a dog always quarrel with a cat?" "My great-grandmother told me why," replied the grandmother. "I will tell you that story now, if you like." "Oh, do!" cried the little boy. "It is the story," said the grandmother, "why the dog cannot endure the cat, nor the cat the mouse. In olden times, as my great-grandmother told me, dogs enjoyed great freedom, and among other privileges, they had a right to all the meat that fell from the table. To guard this right for all time, they drew up a manifesto and copied it upon parchment. In this manifesto, this right was expressly made known. For a long time, the king of the dogs had charge of this document, but finally he confided it to the care of his private secretary, the tomcat. And the tomcat carried the proclamation up into the garret and hid it behind a beam where no one could possibly find it. Now it happened that behind the beam dwelt a young mouse, and on one of his walks he stumbled upon the roll. He tried to drag it from its hiding place, but the stiff parchment stuck fast, and he could not pull it out. But it was quite within reach of his little teeth, and the mouse was highly delighted with his lucky find, for now he had something to nibble upon. Day by day he paid a visit to the parchment and whetted his teeth upon it. Now it presently happened that one day a dog picked up a piece of meat and was caught, and his paw well rubbed with hot ashes. Weeping, he appeared before the king and told him the whole story. Then the king immediately summoned his private secretary, the tomcat, and commanded him to show the proclamation. The tomcat hastened to bring the parchment without delay, but, to his misfortune, what did he find? Only a few fragments. It was at once clear to him that this was the deed of some little mouse. He told the story to all the other cats, who, to express their grief and sorrow, began to meow most piteously. When they had sufficiently expressed their feelings, they declared war against all mice. After this, the tomcat made his report to the king of the dogs, and the king immediately summoned the dog meeting. The dogs came together from all parts, sheepdogs, wolf-dogs, boarhounds, house-dogs, and to them all the king gave command that from thenceforth and forever they should treat the cat as a common enemy. Thus, all cats would be made to rue the tomcat's carelessness. And that is the end of the story. Now I understand all about it, said the little boy. Chapter 10. A Pleasant Surprise. A very delightful surprise awaited the little boy. A few days after the meeting in his house, his mother told him that the mayor had selected his father deputy to the Stemstuo. In a few days, he must go to the capital of the district, and he had decided to take the little boy and his mother with him. That was news indeed. The little boy ran to tell his grandmother, or rather, he hopped on one foot all the way, for he was so glad that he had to do something unusual. The grandmother was delighted with the news. "You will go on the railroad," she said. "That is a great thing. There were no railroads when I was young, and I should not like to travel on one. A good sleigh with 3 horses is far safer, I think. But the railroad is faster, your father tells me, and that is something in cold weather." The little boy ran back to find out how soon they were to go. "Shall we go today?" he asked his mother. "Oh, no, not today," she answered. "Tomorrow then?" "Not tomorrow, but perhaps the day after tomorrow." "That is a long time," sighed the little boy. "You must have patience," said the mother. "There is no virtue so necessary in this world as patience." The little boy wandered back to his grandmother's room. "Grandmama," he said, "Mother says I must have patience, but I don't know how. We are not going to start on the journey for 2 whole days." "Perhaps I can help you," said the grandmother, "if I were to tell you a story now." "Oh, yes, that would help, little grandma," cried the little boy. "I can be very patient when you tell me stories." "This one," said the grandmother, "is about the fox and the badger." A fox and a badger met in the mountains and made an alliance, agreeing that whichever of them found anything good to eat should share it with the other like a brother. Now the master knew where there was a trap set and baited with a great piece of meat. He therefore led the badger there and showed him the meat. "See, dear nephew," said he, "how your clever uncle has led you to a place where we can both have a grand feast. But you are more limber than I, so just slip gently in and pull out the meat, while I keep watch that the peasant who put it here does not suddenly catch us napping." The badger agreed without further words. He slipped into the trap and was about to pull the meat from the hook, when snap! His forefoot was fast in the trap. The badger broke out into a howl of distress. "Help, uncle, help! I am lost!" Renegade ran quickly to the trap, but instead of freeing the badger, he at once began to gnaw the meat. "Just have a little patience," he said, "till I have eaten this morsel before someone comes from the village. Then I will pull your leg out of the trap." Now Greybeard saw plainly that the master had played a trick upon him, and he quickly seized him by the nape of the neck. At this moment, the peasant came running up, crying from afar, "Hold on, my falcon badger! By my faith, I will not rumple a hair of your head." So the peasant killed the fox and stripped off his skin, saying to the badger, "You may go free. His skin is worth 5 kopecks, but yours only 2. Go, in God's name." "It wasn't fair of Renegade," observed the little boy. "No, it wasn't fair, and so he got punished," said the grandmother. The little boy was silent for a few minutes. Then he said, "Little grandma, I am not patient yet." "Oh ho," said the grandmother. "If my stories don't help you to be patient, there is no use in my telling them." "But they do help, grandmamma," said the little boy. "I am a little patient now, just a very little. If you told me another story, I should be more patient still." The grandmother laughed. Then she told the story of the stag and the hedgehog. A stag and a hedgehog were once standing upon a steep hill, and the hedgehog invited the stag to roll down with him into the ditch. "Do you roll down first," replied the stag. Without further words, the hedgehog rolled himself into a round ball and rolled down the slope. The stag followed and broke his neck. Then thought the hedgehog, "What shall I do with you now?" At last the thought occurred to him to call a butcher, and he immediately set out to seek one. On the way, he met a fox. "Whither away?" asked Renegade, and the hedgehog answered, "To seek a butcher." "Gossip," said the fox, "I am a butcher." "Then show me your teeth, master," said the hedgehog. Renegade showed his teeth, but the hedgehog told him they were not sharp enough and went on his way. After a while, he met a wolf, who asked him, "Whither away, gossip?" "To seek a butcher," said the hedgehog. "I am a butcher, sure enough," said the wolf. "Then show me your tools." Isegrim showed his teeth, and the hedgehog, well pleased, said to him, "Follow me then." The wolf followed him, and they came to the dead stag. In a trice, the wolf had torn him in pieces, and inviting all his kindred to the feast, he gave each of them a fine morsel, and kept a whole leg for himself, without the least consideration for the hedgehog. "Well, and what am I to get?" asked the hedgehog, quite vexed. And the wolf replied, "The entrails." This seems to the hedgehog very unfair, and he began to reason with Isegrim, but the wolf only answered, "If you aren't satisfied, go to the judge and make a complaint." So the hedgehog went to seek a judge, and the wolf followed after. Now the hedgehog knew where there was a trap, and he led Isegrim in that direction. The hedgehog tapped lightly upon the knocker, but this quite disgusted Isegrim. "Wait, let me knock," said he, and he thumped with all the strength of his paw. So he was caught, and the hedgehog ran away laughing. The story is done. "It is done too quick, little grandmother," observed the little boy after a moment's thought. "I am not patient yet." "Then my medicine is not the right kind," said the grandmother. "Run away home and hold some yarn for your sister. I heard her say that she was going to knit some warm mittens for you to wear on the journey. Holding yarn is an excellent school for patience." End of chapter 10. Please go to the next video for chapter 11.